let's get to our final position group previews ahead of the spring game this Saturday, which I just cannot wait for. Oh, it is going to be so much fun. But we've got two more position groups to get to, linebackers and defensive backs. Let's start with the final members of the front seven. So linebackers right now going into the spring game this weekend are number 1, Noah Sewell. I think we remember that one. Number 10, Justin Flowe, who should play in the spring game. Now, if he doesn't, I wouldn't be too concerned. I also, don't need to see him necessarily. I'm more excited to see guys who I don't have as many questions, or I have more questions about, or we just don't know that much about. Justin Flowe is not one of those guys because we know exactly what Justin Flowe is capable of. But he'll be wearing number 10 once again. Keith Brown, number 21. Devin Jackson, number 26. Adrian Jackson, number 29. Jeffery Bassa, gosh, I'm excited for him, number 33 once again. Harrison Taggart, the freshman, number 34. Micah Roth, number 35. Jackson LeDuc, a name who's been around for a good amount of time here at Oregon football, number 42. And TJ Gilbert, number 56. I think outside of offensive line, this is probably Oregon's most talented unit. I don't know about deepest because there are some questions, but just the starters that I only have, questions about guys who are behind the starters. But as a unit, if you're starting three guys, are Noah Sewell, Justin Flowe, Jeffery Bassa. I don't know if there are a lot of units that can match that in the Pac-12, heck, maybe even in the country. I mean, those are two, maybe three Sunday caliber players. I think Bassa maybe as a strong safety, but Noah Sewell, Justin Flowe, those are Sunday guys. And I just have so few questions other than one big one. Are they going to stay healthy? Noah Sewell battled injury last year. Justin Flowe hardly played, but when he was, just absolutely electrifying there on defense. And when you think about Dan Lanning, the defense that he had at Georgia and how good they were, and that's basically the reason they won the national championship, because their offense was, kind of pedestrian. It was capable, but it was not their calling card by any means. They did it with really, really good defensive players who were NFL caliber guys, who are big bodies, who are fast. And that's what Noah Sewell and Justin Flowe are. And we know what they are. And I don't think that they've had bad coaching per se over the last several years, but it's safe to assume that Dan Lanning and Tosh Lupoy are going to be able to elevate that, just given their track record in college football. So I'm excited to see these guys play. And we were robbed last season of seeing Noah Sewell, Justin Flowe, and Kayvon Thibodeaux on the field at the same time, because that's as good a front seven, or at least the building block of a front seven, as Oregon has ever had. You'd have to go back probably to the DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead defensive line, but their linebackers are not nearly as good as Noah Sewell and Justin Flowe. So I'm excited for those guys. And Jeffery Bassa, just sideline to sideline. He covers well. He's got great speed, tackles in space, very instinctual. I just don't have a lot of questions about this unit other than, some guys behind we haven't seen a ton from, and are they going to be able to stay healthy? That's really it. But there are a lot worse questions to be asking about a particular unit. I'll ask a few of them about the defensive backs after I tell you all about Bet Online, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, let's get to the defensive backs. And this is a giant question mark, because last year, by the end of the season, the starting DBs were DJ James, he's gone. Mikael Wright, he's gone. Verone McKinley, he's gone, was a first-team All-American. And strong safety, it kind of fluctuated. Sometimes it was Jeffery Bassa. There was Bennett Williams in there. There was Jamal Hill, Steve Stevens. There was a rotating run-through of guys who played those safety positions last year. Part of that was injuries, and part of that was that there wasn't, a second safety, right? McKinley was always there, and I don't think he had a major injury last year, but the other safety slot, it was not a consistent lineup. They were rotating guys in and out a lot. But just like every other position, and this list is a little bit longer, fair warning, we'll run through the guys with their numbers so you can know who you will be watching this Saturday in the spring game. Christian Gonzales, number 0, might be our best corner right now. He's certainly the most proven, all Pac-12 honorable mention last year. He's number 0. Number 4, Damon David. The freshman, number 6, Jalil Florence. Could see a lot of him in the spring game. Steve Stevens, mentioned him a moment ago, will wear number 7 once again. Triquez Bridges, number 11. Bryan Addison, number 13. Bennett Williams, number 15. Dontrell Brooks, number 16. Jamal Hill, number 19. Number 22, Darren Barkins, a name that you will hear if you listen to shows like this one or others talk about the Ducks as someone who hasn't seen a lot of playing time, but maybe has a good amount of potential. Jonathan Flowe, the brother of Justin Flowe, is number 25. Marco Vidakovic, number 27. Avante Dickerson, 28. Donovan Dalton, the Hawaii transfer, number 30. Timon Davis, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, number 36. Max Wysocki, number 37, or Wysocki. Number 39, Dane Sipos, and number 43, Devin Morrow. So those guys there at the end, you can probably imagine, not the big names that we expect to see in the defensive backfield this year for Demetrius Martin and Matt Powledge and Tosh Lupoint, Dan Lanning, and that entire defensive staff. So Gonzalez, like I said, might be the best corner that we have. He's the one I at least the most confident about just lining up and going plug and play. He's got a history with Coach Martin going back to their time in Colorado. He was productive in this conference last year. Guys tend to only get better, though I will say from 2020 to 2021, I thought Mikael Wright took a step back, though I still expect him to get drafted in the 5th round of the NFL draft this year. Damon David, a former 4-star guy, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. You can hop in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is what he was recruited as. Haven't heard a lot from him over the last couple seasons, but this spring game might be an opportunity to show the coaches what he can do because they're going to want to play as many players as they can. And you're not going to play the starters a ton because you don't want to risk injury, right? Or guys that you project are going to be stars. But that's the interesting thing about this defensive backs unit for Oregon. We don't know who the starters are going to be. We have rumors, we have reports, right? We can read stuff about, oh, so-and-so was really good. This guy was good, and put that in the context of what they've done during their careers at Oregon so far. But it doesn't mean that we know for certain because we don't have an official depth chart. Dan Lanning has made that very, very clear. So Steve Stevens, a guy who will probably play more safety than people realize. He got a good amount of playing time and I think was solid, not great, but solid in that game against Ohio State. He's coming off of an injury, so that limited his time last year, but he has said that he's good to go. Jalil Florence, we all want to see him, right? I mean, anytime you get a freshman recruit like that, and it's a recruiting battle with USC, and the Ducks end up winning it, and he's pretty highly rated 4-star recruit, that's a guy who, we want to see what his chops are, right? So to speak, if I'm using that phrase correctly. I don't even know. But we want to see what he's got. And so I expect him to play a pretty good amount in the spring game and get a chance because he's an early enrollee, and so he's already there, whereas I don't believe his teammate Jalil Tucker is quite yet. Here are the most interesting guys who, in reading practice reports and following along with Oregon football this spring, are causing quite a bit of buzz, as they say. Now, Bennett Williams is one of them because he was a playmaker last year before he got hurt, thought about going to the NFL, decides to come back. He's a versatile guy. You can line him up as a nickel or a slot back, or you can play him at safety. He looked good when he came back and played in the Alamo Bowl. He had a big hit and a forced fumble that, I'm pretty sure the ball is still on the ground. It was there for so long. Anyway, but number 11, Triquez Bridges, number 13, Bryan Addison. Those are two names to watch because the safety position, both of them are wide open. They're wide open. There was never a consistent strong safety last year. Bryan Addison played it a little bit, but he was not a regular starter week in and week out. And the free safety was Verone McKinley's spot, and he's gone now. So Triquez Bridges had converted to a corner after being recruited as a safety, but now it seems that because of positional need, they're going to put him back at safety. And from what I've heard, he looks pretty good and comfortable in that area, which you would expect because that's his former position. I think they moved him over to corner because he's a big body. He's about 6'3", 6'4", and Oregon typically hasn't had those sorts of bodies on the outside. And so I think that was, a worthy experiment to go for. And it's not that he wasn't capable over there. It's just that right now the secondary has a greater need at the safety position than they do at corner, because there's just more guys on the list who can play corner, right? Jamal Hill is sort of a nickel dime corner. He can maybe play a little safety, but you've got Darren Barkins in there, Avante Dickerson. There's just a number of bodies. And the name you're not hearing right now is Dante Manning. We should not expect to see him in the spring game. That was the last report that I heard coming from Dan Lanning and practice, was that he is not expected to play, and it's not expected to be a serious injury, but they're keeping him out, precautionary measure. Totally on board with that. I'm 100% supportive. If he doesn't have to play, he doesn't need to. And so I think Manning and Gonzalez are the guys who you would imagine are going to be the top two corners, but I think the room is wide open. And though it's not completely fair and whatnot, Manning's injury does provide an opportunity for other guys to step up and show what they can do more than they were otherwise going to get to do, right? Because it just creates more reps at practice. Coaches get to see him more opportunities to make plays, and you can move up the depth chart. But these are the names that you want to be looking out for. I think Triquez Bridges and Bryan Addison have been doing really good things at safety. I'll be very interested to see how they are deployed and, just how they handle themselves out there. I mean, Addison had an interception last year, very nearly had another one against Colorado. He came to Oregon as a wide receiver, but he switched over to the defensive backfield. There have been guys in this conference and even on this team who have had success with that before. Jeff Mail went the other way. Remember, he was a 3-star cornerback recruit, ends up playing wide receiver, and that went really, really well. So I'm a fan of guys crossing over, playing both sides, Charles Nelson style. I mean, not, playing receiver and then going over and playing safety. I don't need guys to do that like Charles Nelson did, but swapping sides of the ball, positional versatility, I think that's fine, because sometimes, guys are good at one position, but maybe they'll be great at another. And I think Triquez Bridges and Bryan Addison have, I don't want to say the inside track on the starting safety jobs, but that they are players who are continually mentioned in practice reports because they're making plays and coaches are talking about him. And so that's why we talk about him right here on the pod. I appreciate everyone listening. Enjoy the spring game this weekend. We'll have a full recap and insight next week as well. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.